Okay, Bill, can you read that one?
Okay, now that I'm on the right page. The overflow property. As discussed earlier, every element on the page is a box. If the height of the box is not set, the height of that box will grow as large as necessary to accommodate the content. The
Can
CS,
you scroll down? Patricia, are you there? Or is it Patricia's doing it? Yeah. Yeah. Thanks.
the CSS overflow property specifies the behavior that occurs when an element's content overflows the element's box.
Okay. And what's the answer here?
Specify the behavior that occurs when the content overflows the element's box.
Good. And Peter, can you read this one?
Let's see. The overflow property values. There are 4 values for the overflow property: visible, the default value, scroll, hidden, and auto. The value scroll results in clipped overflow, but a scroll bar is added, so the rest of the content may be seen. The code above will produce both horizontal and vertical scroll bars. Run the code. Run the code and see how it works. Fill in the blanks produce horizontal and vertical scroll bars. Fill in the blanks produce horizontal and vertical scroll bars. Div, background, float left. Float left. Give me a second to see. See, let's go. So, talking about scroll bar. So yeah, so that would be overflow.
For the first one, yeah, good.
And it says horizontal and vertical scroll bar. So I'll just probably do overflow and I'll do the other one. What do you call it? A scroll.
Yep, perfect. All right. So, Mike, can you read this one?
Yeah. Auto and hidden. Auto, if overflow is clipped, a scroll bar should be added to make it possible to see the rest of the content. Hidden, the overflow is clipped and the rest of the content will remain or will be invisible. Gives the CSS, and then it shows a display example of says the default value for the overflow property is visible. And what is the default value? It is visible.
Okay. Yes, good. All right. So now let's go ahead and play around with that before we move on to Z-index. So let's go to our Visual Studio and then go ahead and scroll down till we can see that div 1 that we created yesterday. Yeah, right there. And then let's go ahead and copy line 68, all those div 1s, and then paste it. So copy it and like paste it like 4 more times. You can just do Control V, it's faster. There you go. There you go. Okay. So now, so we haven't set overflow at all. So let's go look at it with overflow just as the default setting. So let's go to your browser. Did you hit refresh? What type of browser? Oh yeah, you got to save it there. There you good. Okay, so right now it's just flowing over into the next one. So now let's go ahead and add overflow so go to div 1 in your CSS. So scroll up to the div 1 and add overflow. Oh, wait, you got some craziness going on there. Your float left is outside your closing curly bracket. So just go ahead and just delete that. Just delete the float left part, because you don't need that. Okay, and then now go to your, yeah, then hit enter and do overflow scroll. Good, and save that. And go ahead and refresh it. And see now you've got scroll bars to see the rest of that craziness, including your div 2, which is a child element of div 1. So, all right, now let's go ahead and change it to hidden, overflow hidden. And everybody, I hope you guys are following along. Oh, you got to be inside the.
Oh yeah, that was by accident. Sorry.
No worries.
Scroll.
Refresh that, and now we just can't see it. And now I'll change it to auto. And same scroll, really. But if there wasn't, the difference is, okay, so let's go to div 3 in your CSS and add an overflow inside your CSS for that and set it to scroll. And save that and then go hit refresh. We've got scroll bars for no reason, right? Like there's nothing to scroll. But if you now let's change div 3 to auto. And refresh that. And there's no scroll bars. But if we added more text, so it was like div 1, there would be scroll bars. So generally auto is better than scroll, but it's up to you. And now let's change it to visible. You can just delete that one off div 3. Or yeah, or leave it. That's fine. Either one doesn't matter. And go up to your div 1 and change it to visible. And save that and refresh. And see now it's overflowing, but it pushed everything down. So all right. And go ahead and delete that back off again. Just delete line 21 and save that and hit refresh. Yeah, I think it's because you were doing that float left thing. Because that's how it should look. The visible is like how the default should look. Okay, so now let's get back to Visual Studio, or I mean Sololearn. Okay. So Lewis, can you read this one? And if you've got a camera, could you turn your camera on? Oh, perfect. Thanks.
Yeah, it keeps shutting off for some reason.
I don't know.
Z index, here we go. The Z index property, when elements are positioned outside the normal flow, they can overlap the elements. The Z index property specifies the stack order of an element, which element should be placed in front of or behind the others.
So we kind of touched on Z index yesterday. So we're not gonna have to pull that up. But do you guys remember us doing this yesterday and we moved them back and forth from the front to the back? And
Yep.
it's like looking at it three-dimensionally. Okay. All right. Let's hit continue.
And by default, which element in the markup will overlap the others when elements begin stacking? Overlap the other word, the last element, right?
Yeah, that's right. Because like if it's 3 or whatever, it's the highest one up on the the three-dimensional thing. I mean, everybody's starting at 0 and then you add 1 and 2. You get what I'm saying, right? Any questions on that, or any questions on overflow that we just covered earlier? Was anybody not able to do overflow or is confused or anything?
Quick question on it. As far as Z index goes, is that essentially the layering? Is that what's happening? Or am I seeing this example wrong?
No, you're right. It's layering. So like
Okay.
when we do like our left and right, top, bottom and stuff, that's like in geometry, that's like your X and Y coordinates, right? But then when we add the Z index, it makes it three-dimensional, right? So now in geometry, it's your Z index, which, makes it a three-dimensional graph or whatever. And then, so if by default, everything's like Z index 0, right? But if you make it Z index 1, then that's going to go on top of the other things where it's overlapping or whatever. Like you've got 2 divs that overlap and you want to bring one to the front, then you create a higher Z index. And then if you want one higher than that, then you just add another, like you'd make it Z index 2. So it's, overlapping that one.
Okay, that's perfect. I was kind of grasping it, but that makes more sense.
Okay, great. Will, can you read this one?
Sure can. Assigning the higher Z index value to the blue div and lower Z index value to the red div will result the following. The Z index works only in the position element, position absolute, positive, position relative, or position fixed. In order to make the Z index properly work, you must position an element.
Perfect. You got to have them something other than static. And I'm not going to go over positioning yesterday. I think we spent plenty of time on that yesterday. So hopefully you guys grasp positioning. But if not, you can ask me later and I can go over it again. All right. Let's move on to the quiz. And Patricia, you're exempt. So David, you are up.
If you give a negative value to the top property, in which the direction will the box be moved? Given a negative to the top property.
So top, okay, so we've given it, let's say a position of relative, right? And then we do top and then colon -10 pixels is basically what it's saying.
Down.
No. Does anybody else think they know what it is?
It's up.
Yeah, there you go. It's up because so like, all right, so like, let's say here's your,
You're shaving the top.
yeah, here's your, I can't even see myself. Hold on, make sure I'm in there. Okay, so here's your web page, right? And let's say this circle is a div, right? And
Yeah.
so and this is like at its relative property, let's say it's sitting right here, because let's say it has a parent index and it's a child of it, and the parents moved over here, so it's sitting right here, right? And then we did hold on, maybe if I show, I'm gonna show you one sec. I'm gonna show you because maybe that'll make it more clear.
You're just shaving pixels off the top. So
Yeah.
everything moves up.
Right.
Okay.
But all
I
right.
get it. I think I get it.
Oh, you do? Okay. Does everybody else get it too?
Yeah, I don't know. I saw the word negative and I thought it was just reversed.
Yeah, no, it's like, since it's negative, it's okay. If you added top like 10%, it would like bring it down, right? And
Okay.
if you added left, it would bring it to the right.
Right.
So since we went top negative, it's gonna go up.
Up.
So,
Yeah. Okay.
okay. Can you do screen share again? All right, and continue. And Roger Chang, can you read this one?
When the float property is used with the values of the left or right, anything else that lives in the containing element will flow around the element associated with the float property.
Perfect. All right, and Brian A, what's this? Can you read this one and answer it?
When the text needs more space than the dimensions of the box, the browser shows scrolls of the overflow property with the values of scroll and auto.
Perfect. All right, Samantha, can you read this one?
Assign width of 500 pixels to the text element and enable fixed scroll bars. Well, the width is 500.
Yeah.
Would it just be overflow fixed?
No.
Or
So we're assuming that there's not enough text to make it overflow auto. So instead,
scroll?
Yeah, good. All right, Sandra, can you do this one?
All right, I just looked at it. I was like, whoa, okay. Fill in the blanks and make the blue box disappear from the web page. Crap.
I'm sorry. What was the last one? Scroll and
500
500 pixels. Yeah.
how come? I must have misspelled it.
All right, I need help on this one, please.
Okay. Does anybody else want to try and answer this one?
Is the first one position?
Yes, because it's absolute, and absolute is a position, so that's how you'd figure that one out.
And the other one should be hidden, right?
Well, no, yeah,
No?
you're close. With display, you do display none.
None.
Hidden is with visibility hidden. I think.
Oh, okay, visibility. okay.
Yeah. And then display is none. So let's hit it. Good job. All right, I'm gonna come back to you though, Sandra. So can you read
I
this
figured.
next one?
All right, CSS3. CSS3 is the latest standard for CSS. CSS3 is completely backward compatible with early CSS versions. Some of the most significant.
You were worried they were gonna say it's completely backwards from CSS, and you're like, we just learned this for nothing. Oh, I could tell in your voice. All right, sorry, keep going.
Great, thanks. Some of the most significant new features are border radius allows us to create rounded corners for elements. Border images allows us to specify an image as the border around an element. Multiple backgrounds applies multiple backgrounds to elements, animation and effects, and much more. There are lots of other great features that will be discussed in upcoming lessons.
All right, so let's hit continue. And what's the answer?
Is it possible to have multiple backgrounds in CSS3? I would say yes.
That is correct.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thanks for reading. Jacob M. Can you read this one?
CSS3 new features to make web development easier and faster. CSS3 introduces additional new features, including the following: box shadow. With the box shadow property, you can attach one or more shadows to an element by specifying values for color, size, blur, and offset. Gradients. CSS3 gradients allow you to set the background color of the elements to a gradient. Two types of gradients are available: linear and radial. Most of the new features have been implemented by major web browsers, so you can already enjoy the power of CSS3.
All right, let's hit continue. And what's the answer here?
Radial.
Perfect. All right, Franklin D, can you read this one?
CSS3 new features. Transforms allow you to rotate, scale, move, and skew elements. Another proper feature is the transition, which allows you to animate from one CSS property value to another. You can combine it with transforms and animate the element's position, rotation, of scale. The property attracting the most attention is animation. CSS animation have their own specifications, and they will allow you to create keyframes, set durations, and easing, and more. Most of the new features have been implemented by major web browsers, so you can already enjoy power of CSS3.
All right, let's hit continue. And what's the answer?
Which CSS feature allows animation from one CSS property value to another? Transitions?
Yep, good. Let's hit continue. And Mark H, can you read this one?
CSS vendor prefix. The CSS vendor prefix or CSS browser prefix are a way for browser markers to add support for the new CSS features during periods of testing and experimentation. Browser prefix are used to add new features that may not be part of the final and formal CSS specification. For example, the prefix for CRE in Chrome is WebKit. The border radius property is currently supported in Chrome, Safari, and Mozilla, as long as it is accompanied by the browser prefix. To specify the border radius in Chrome and CRE, the following syntax is used. The prefix is added to the property to make it work in an unsupported browser, so you might end up with multiple definitions of the same properties each with a specific browser prefix. While most browsers today will work without prefix, it is essential to know that each of the backward capabilities in understanding older codes.
And what's the answer here?
Be WebKit.
Okay. All right, and Fabian, can you read this one?
Sure. Browser prefixes. Here is the list of vendor prefixes for each browser. It might feel annoying and repetitive to have to write the properties 2 to 5 times to get them to work in all browsers, but it's temporary. As browsers improve, they add support for the standard-based version of the properties, and you can remove the prefixed versions.
So this is kind of outdated. Most of these you don't need to add prefixes anymore. But there's still cases where you do. So just if it's not working on a certain browser, then add the prefix. So, all right, let's hit continue. And what's the answer?
Drag and drop from the options below to support border radius in Mozilla Firefox, as well as in WebKit-based web browsers.
No, that's not right. Yeah, there you go.
So would that be WebKit?
Nope, they already used WebKit.
Okay, hang on. Let's go WebKit Firefox. Hang on.
Okay.
Okay, border radius.
Well, that's the second one.
Okay. And then drag and drop from this one. And then dash Moz.
Yeah, Moz, good. And then border radius. All right, good. Okay, let's continue. And Kevin B, can you read this one? And do you have your camera?
The border radius property. With CSS3, you can give any element rounded corners by using the border radius property. Specific border radius values can be applied for the border radius property in the following order: top left, top right, bottom left. The value of border radius can also be specified in percentages. Add the border radius values to indicate 0 pixels to the top left, 15 pixels to the bottom left, 10 pixels to the bottom right, 20 pixels to the top right. It would be 0, 20, 10, and 15.
Perfect. That was good. Yeah, there you go. All right. Mark H, can you read this one? Or did I just have you read?
Yeah, you just have me read.
Oh, okay. Ayani, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Can you read this one?
Creating a circle. A rectangle can be turned into a circle using only CSS. To create a circle, the border radius should be half of the height and the width. The rectangle in the example below has a width and height of 200 pixels. By setting the border radius to 100 pixels, the corners will be rounded to form a circle. Run the code and see how it works.
Okay, and what's this one?
To make a circle, the border radius should be 100 pixels.
No. Try again.
Equal to half of the height and the width.
Perfect. All right. So back up to the top. Michael East, can you read this one?
The box shadow property. The CSS3 box shadow property applies shadows to elements. Components of the box shadow property are decoded by browsers in the following manner. The first link for the horizontal offset will cast the shadow to the right of the box. The second link is for vertical offset that will cast the shadow below the box. And the color of the shadow is optional. In the example below, the horizontal and vertical offsets have been set to 10 pixels with the following result, and run the code to see how it works. Add the box shadow property for a result of 10 pixels vertical offset, 20 pixels horizontal offset, and red for the color. So the first field will be box dash shadow.
Good.
The next one will be 20, and then the third one will be 10.
Perfect. All right, let's hit continue. And Bill C, can you read this one?
Blur and spread. Besides color, there are also two optional values for the box shadow element, which are blur and spread. The blur and spread values should be used before the color value. Run the code and see how it works. Come on. Which two choices indicate optional values for the shadow box? Blur and spread.
Good. All right, Peter, can you read this one?
Oh, that's like on the one before this one.
Oh, okay, I'll come back to you. Lewis, can you read this one?
Negative values. Negative values can also be used for the box shadow property. Horizontal offset, the shadow will be to the left of the box. Vertical offset, the shadow will be above the box. Blur radius, negative values are not allowed. And spread radius, negative values will cause the shadow to shrink. Run the code, see how it works. Place the box shadow property values in the correct order. So it goes spread, then
no.
Blur. Or is it the vertical offsets first, like horizontal and vertical?
Yeah, so horizontal and vertical.
Horizontal, vertical, and then spread and blur, and then color.
No, you got those backwards. It's
Blur is first.
Blur, then spread, then color.
Blur, spread, color. Gotcha.
All right. Let's hit continue. And Peter, are you caught up with this?
Not yet.
Oh, okay. Will, can you read this one?
I'm trying to catch up too.
Okay. Moving along. David S, can you read this one?
Creating an inner shadow. The insert keyword allows to draw an inner shadow in the box. To show an inset shadow, just add the insert keyword. You can simultaneously create inner and outer shadows by spreading each shadow with a comma, by separating each shadow with a comma. Create inner shadow. Which keyword is used to create shadow within an element? Inset.
Perfect. And Roger Chang, can you read this one?
Layering multiple shadows. You can define as many shadows for the same box as you want by writing all of them comma separated in the same rule. In the example below, 2 inner shadows have been created by separating each shadow with a comma. In case we specify more than one value, the one which comes last will be positioned at the back of all shadows. Here's an example. As expected, the blue shadow, hashtag BOE0E6, becomes last.
All right.
Multiple box shadows are separated by a comma.
Perfect. All right, so now let's go ahead and actually do that, because box shadows are important. I like using them. It makes it look kind of more 3D and just makes the page look better, like especially if you add it to like your nav bar. So let's go, and first on our div1, let's go ahead and add. So first let's change the position to relative. And then let's make our left, let's make that 200. And then now let's go ahead and add a box shadow. And we'll go ahead and do -10 pixels. And then you just add a space, no commas or anything. And then 10 pixels. And we'll just do gray. And let's go ahead and go to your browser. See, by doing it negative, it brings it off to the left. I like to the left better. Let's go ahead and hit, let's change overflow to hidden, just so we don't have that div. I guess you have to add overflow hidden. Okay, and refresh that. Well, our part 2 was part of the overflow, so that's why that's gone. But yeah, and we can go ahead and add some more. Let's go ahead and add 5 and 5 before the gray. So in your box shadow after the 10, yeah, add 5 pixels and 5 pixels. And save that and refresh that. And that's how we add some blur and some spread and make it look, I don't know, more shadowy. So you can play around with it to get it how you want, but using box shadows is definitely a good idea in when you're building your page. You don't have to, but I just like it. All right. So was everybody able to follow along with that? Was anybody having issues with that? Everybody tracking, understand how to do box shadows?
Mine is not working.
Okay. Let me stop screen share. Can you do screen share?
Yeah. You see my screen?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I did.
Well, you need to add a space after the 5 pixels in the gray, and you need to spell gray with an A. Okay, and save that, and now go do your thing.
Okay, that works.
There you go.
Thank you.
You're welcome. All right. Can you do screen share again? Thank you. All right, let's go back. Oh, anybody else having issues or confused or anything? All right, well, let's go back to Visual Studio and go to transparency and oh shoot, who just read?
That would be me.
I'm ready. I can just read this.
Oh, okay, sounds good.
Transparency effect. Before CC3, before CSS3, transparent background images were used to create transparency effects. The new features of CSS3 now make it easier to create transparency effects. CSS supports color names, hexadecimal, and RGB colors. In addition, CSS3 introduces the following: RGBA colors. RGBA color values, an extension of RGB color values if an alpha channel, which specifies opacity for a color. An RGBA color value is specified with RGBA, red, green, blue, alpha. The alpha parameter is a number between 0.0, which is fully transparent, and 1.0, fully opaque. HSL, hue, saturation, lightness, colors. An HSL color value is specified with HSL, hue, saturation, lightness. Hue is a degree on the color wheel ranging from 0 to 360. 0 or 360 is red, 120 is green, 240 is blue. Saturation is a percentage value. 100% is a full color. Lightness is also a percentage. 0% is dark, black, and 100% is white. HSLA color values are an section of HSL color values with an alpha channel, which specify the opacity for a color, just like RGBA. In the example below, a transparent glass minibar is created with CSS3. In the HTML file, a nav tag containing an underlined list with links has been added. A result is courses discussed top line block. The underline tag has been styled for background gradients that is white and transparent. 2 box shadow values have been added. One for an outer dark shadow and one for an inner light edge. Some of the properties used, like the background gradients, will be discussed in upcoming lessons.
Oh, and just so you know, when you were saying the UL, that's unordered list.
Oh yeah, that's right. On order list, audience UL on order list. Order list on order list. Don't worry about me going off over there. On the line list. On order list, yes. And then transparency effect, fill in the blanks. A footer. What does it say? Fill in the blanks to create a footer with an inset box shadow and a 1 pixel border at the top. One pixel border at the top. I'll do border.
Yep, good. And then a dash.
And then
it's the top. So good.
And then it says inset box shadow and a 1 pixel border at the top. 1 pixel border at the top. We did border and then background RGBA box dash. They want a shadow.
Yep.
So we can do shadow here,
Perfect.
box shadow, and what does this want? What else does it want? I'm not sure, but I see 1 pixel border at the top, and I'm looking at border top 1 pixel solid RGBA and a box that shadow. The one that's inside a box shadow and a 1 pixel border at the top. I'll just put 1 pixel.
Well, no, it's got the
Well,
1 pixel.
I mean,
you gotta
it got 1 pixel at the top with the bottom top.
But remember,
So
it's the
what else
box
is
shadow on the inside of the box. So what do you put before you put your
yeah.
they say the word
Insert.
yeah, good. Inset, good.
Insert. No. INSET.
Yeah, good job. All
Thank
right.
you.
And text shadow. We've kind of worked with text shadow before. Let's see who is up. I don't remember the order, so I'm just going to start from the bottom and go up. Mark H. Can you read this one?
Text shadow properties. The text shadow property defines one or more comma separation shadow effects to be applied to the text contained in the current element. The image below shows how the text shadow property is applied. The offset X and offset Y values are required for the CSS text shadow properties. The color value is not required, but since the default for the text shadow is transparent, the text shadow will not appear unless you specify a color value. The text shadow property, add a 25 pixel left and 15 pixel down blue text shadow. So text shadow, so 25 and 15.
Perfect. All right. Kevin B, can you read this one?
Multiple text shadows. The text shadow style can accept multiple values in a comma-separated list. According to CSS2, the shadows are laid down in the order they appear. So if they overlap, the last one that is specified should appear on top. CSS3 has now changed that, so they are applied in reverse order. To create multiple shadows, the shadows are separated with a comma. Here's an example. This example defines 2 text shadows at different locations, blur radius, and colors. This makes it look like there are 2 different light sources on the text. To make a text shadow look realistic, remember these few shadow characteristics. A shadow which is close to the text is normally not as blurred as a shadow that is far from the text. A shadow that is far from the text usually implies a light source which is also far from the text. A shadow which is close to the text usually implies that the underlying surface is close, that the light is close, or both. A close shadow is often darker than a distant shadow because less light can get in between the shape and the underlying surface. To remove a text shadow, set the text shadow property to none. No shadows will be associated with that element.
Okay.
How many text shadow properties can an element accept? Multiple.
Good. And just to remember, you got to be real careful with text shadow. Like if I saw y'all doing your text shadow with that, like the one they just had the example with the blue and then the black, I would definitely suggest you change that because you can't read that stuff. So definitely remember, be careful with text shadow so that it's still visible and doesn't take too much time for the users to focus and read it and everything. Franklin D, can you read this one?
They're working with pseudo classes. A CSS pseudo class allows you to style elements or parts of elements that exit in the document without using JavaScript or other scripts. A pseudo class starts with a colon. The most commonly used pseudo class are first child and last child. The first child pseudo class matches the element that is first child element of some other element. In the following example, the selector matches any P element that is the first child of the div element. The last child pseudo class matches an element that is the last child element of some other element. An example below, the selector will match any P element that is the last child of the dev element. Working with pseudo class to style the first child of the P element. So it'll be P and then first child.
Yep, perfect. P and then child. Okay. Does everybody understand? Does that make sense to everybody? The first child and last child, or should we do an example of it?
Yeah, could you do an example?
Yeah, sure. Let's go here. And then, so first let's change our overflow from hidden so that we get our, yeah, just delete that overflow altogether so that we can see our second div element again. And then let's go ahead and, I'm gonna have to go to a separate. Well, okay, scroll down and let's add some more stuff into, or keep scrolling down. All right, take your third, fourth, and fifth, or just third and fourth div, and cut those, and then not the fifth one. Sorry, I was wrong. Not the fifth one. Leave that one there. Okay, so cut that, and then go to the end of line 78 and hit enter. And let's do a tab so that, because generally that's how you do it with when you have multiple divs, and hit paste so that you can see the difference of where it is and where your ending div is, so you don't get confused. Let's highlight those and do a tab. Highlight to up to 80 from there. Yeah, do a tab. That's good. And then let's do the same thing with 76 through 78. Tab that too. Okay, good. So that's how you generally break it down when you're doing your HTML. And if you're doing it in a HTML file, a lot of times it'll just do it for. Oh, what happened? Let's go back to. Okay. Okay. So now let's go do div. Well, first let's see how that looks. I think we're gonna have to get rid of. Let's get rid of some stuff, or scroll up so we can see what's set. Okay, position static. Okay, let's get rid of that float left on div 3 and div 2 also. And scroll down, see if you have any other float lefts or anything. Okay, no. All right, looks good. Okay, so let's go to your browser and see how it looks like just like that. We're not seeing our stuff. Is it not? Hold on. Go back to your Visual Studio. Look at what's going on here. Okay, scroll down. Oh, this probably isn't this isn't it, but get rid of that clear both because you don't need that because we don't have any floats. And let's see, static, border style solid. That all looks good. Huh. And scroll down. It's all in the divs. Let's see, not missing any. Okay. Keep scrolling up. Oh, no. Back to your Visual Studio. What is causing it to do that? What am I missing? All right, scroll down slowly. Yeah, just keep going. Well, let's get rid of some of the, so that it's not overflowing like that. Let's get rid of some of the div ones, like on line 74 and 73. Yeah, just delete some of that and save that. Let's go back and refresh. Why is it still not? Well, whatever. What we're trying to do anyway, it shouldn't affect it. So let's go up to our style, and click to the end, or go, let's go put it at the bottom, and then do click to the end of line 67 and hit enter, and do hashtag div1 and do the colon first child first dash child. Oh yeah, you got that. And then now go ahead and do your squiggly bracket or your curly brackets, and enter. And what's that you got there? There's like a 4 or something, or what's that that's in your curly brackets?
It's the hashtag sign. It just did it on its own
Oh, that's weird.
when
Let's
I
delete
clicked
that.
enter.
Okay,
See, I did it again. I entered and now it's doing it again.
that's weird. We'll just hit enter again to go to the next line.
Mm-hmm.
And then click to line 69 and delete that hashtag, and then go down and delete that one. Okay, now go back to 69 and do color red and semicolon, and now go ahead and hit refresh.
Oh.
Oh, it's not working. Why is it not working? It's probably because it doesn't like no, it's probably because it wants it to be like a paragraph or something. Okay, let's throw let's throw a couple paragraphs in on line 77, like throw paragraph and say paragraph 1 inside. Okay, and then copy that a couple times. And paste it a couple times. Okay, all right, so now let's go back up to their to the pseudo class or your Visual Studio. And put scroll to the left so we can see what's going on there. Okay, and after div1, add a space and put a P and save that. And now hit refresh. Why is it not working? What the hell?
I don't know. I think my computer is crazy.
No. I must be doing something wrong. Was that not working for everybody else too?
Was not working.
It's not working for you guys. It works for you. Okay.
Was it supposed to be in the box?
Kevin B, can you do screen share real quick? Okay. Yeah, it's working for him. Let's see what you did and see if it looks any different. No, you did the same thing. Yeah, I don't know why it's not working for some people and it's working for others. But anyway, that's how it's supposed to work. And then now let's change that to last child. Now I wonder if it's the browser you're using. Yeah, change it to last child and save that and hit refresh. Did you hit refresh?
Yeah, I hit refresh. I think it's because I have too many childs and one might be hidden.
Oh. No, it's showing both of them. I think there's a because you're, let's go back to your P last child. Did you add any spaces or anything? No. Okay. Well, this is weird. But
I have a question real quick. I'm using Edge, Microsoft Edge browser, so I'm not sure if that could have anything to do with it.
it could be. But we're just gonna move on. So let's go back to what's it called? Sololearn. And if you could do screen share again. And hit oh, never mind. All right, let's go to the top. Roger Chang, can you read this one?
Working with pseudo elements. Pseudo elements are used to select specific parts of an element. There are 5 pseudo elements in CSS, each starting with a double colon. The first line of the text in a selector, the first letter of the text in a selector. Selection selects the portion of the element that is selected by a user. Before, insert some content before an element. After, insert some content after an element. In the example below, the first line pseudo element is used to style the first line of our text. The selection pseudo element selects the selected text.
Oh yeah, maybe you needed to add laws or something. Sorry, keep going.
The dash moz dash prefix is used as the selection element is not supported by Mozilla yet.
Okay. And what's the answer to
Which of the following is not a pseudo element in CSS? Before?
No, that's one of them.
No. Heading.
Perfect. All right. Peter, can you read this one?
Yeah. Working with pseudo elements. Using before and after pseudo elements allows us to add a wide variety of content to the page. An example below, before pseudo elements, you should add an image before the list. Can insert text, image, and other resources using, like, note the content keyword in the syntax. Note the content. You can insert text, image, and other using before pseudo element. You can insert text images. If you change the before element to after, an example of the images will appear at the end of the list.
Okay. And what's the answer here?
Add an image prior to using element. So to be the P before.
Good.
And then that will be the URL there.
Good. Okay. So, well, now let's stop there for the day. So we're gonna stop there, and